I'm Kathy Burke.
In the flesh.
And I've been all over the country meeting women.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
All sorts of women.
What's going on here, skinhead?
I'm the first woman in my family to ever buy property.
Asking all sorts of personal questions.
Have you heard of a vajacial? Do you mind me asking why you decided to get your eggs frozen?
I want to understand rites of passage I've never experienced.
Why would you suddenly think I'm going to be a good mum? Because I've got nice, cuddly, big tits.
Sorry, guys, contraction.
Oh, here.
Like motherhood.
I've never seen a little baby, like, warm at the oven.
And the fairy tale wedding.
That's what most little girls want to do.
When you're on your own, you're more powerful.
And see the lengths we go to please others.
That's what I'd look like if I got rid of my double chin. Most blokes would a ham sandwich.
Everyone seems to have an opinion about what a woman should be. Well, this is my opinion.
God, if only I knew all this so long ago. It's like, oh, my God.
How would someone woo you?
How would someone woo me? Vodka and fags. Just the way it's not changed. It's been exactly the same since I was 14.
I've dated, lived in sin, and shagged my fair share of lovely blokes. But I've never had a relationship that's lasted more than a couple of years. Partly because of farting, and partly because I'm just not willing to compromise.
It just seems to me that the women do most of the compromising. You know, of all the relationships over the years that I've witnessed, it's the women that sort of do everything, really. And I think that's where there's a difference in men and women.
But is this changing? We have more control over our lives now and don't rely on men the way we used to. So I want to find out what this new freedom means for our relationships.
What's the worst what's the worst situation I could put you in on this episode?
The worst thing that you could do to me is make me go to a wedding. I much prefer a funeral because I just find them more honest. Because whenever I've been to a wedding with young people, which is very rare, it's like, sometimes I don't want to go because I'm like, well, I'm not wasting money on getting them a wedding present because they'll be fucking divorced within 2 years. So I'm just not doing it, you know? So I stopped going to people's weddings that were under the age of 30 and told them straight, well, no, I'm not coming. Why? Because it's bollocks.
Did you write that in the card?
You're not going to last. Don't even bother getting them a card.
I've always seen marriage as the ultimate compromise for women. In fact, getting hitched extends a bloke's life but shortens ours.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Anansie.
Oh, lovely to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Wow. Very white in here, isn't it?
I'm in West London meeting Angie. She's been in the bridal business for 40 years.
Oh, wow. I like these tiaras. Can people pay on tick?
Yeah, they can do a payment plan.
That's what you can tell I'm a padded.
Yeah.
So even in this modern world where women have choice and they don't have to get married, why do you think women put themselves through this?
I think probably little girls, that's their dream. A lot of them is to wear a wedding dress one day, and I think that's what they do, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I was never really into princess stories and the princess getting the prince. I mean, I remember as a little girl sort of pretending to get married, you know, or pretending to be Miss World. Oh, it's a laugh. But, you know what I mean? You'd play Miss World and all that business. But that was sort of it. I'm Kathy. So nice to meet you. Hi, darling.
Maybe we are less willing to compromise now. Marriage is on the decline, and 1 in 5 engagements are called off before the couple even make it up the aisle. But for women like 39-year-old Hayley, who's been saving for her wedding for over a year, today is an important day.
I think it's showing a bit of boob at the side there, babe. It might be, you know, if you waved to someone.
Dangerous.
Shows off your figure beautifully. I don't know, I've got my hopes on the other one for you. Yeah. This is so nice because she's loving it. You know, it's like special to get dressed up, try things on. But that would do my nutting. I mean, if I was getting married, I'd flick me fag out, I'd walk in, I'd go, that and that, in an extra, extra large, and that'll be it. Ooh, we got another frock on now.
Yeah, it is nice, that one, isn't it? I think I like the back more than the front. I love the bottom, it's lovely.
It's like, the whole point of the day is that you're going to have sex that night. So you don't want to look like a big fairy, do you? You want to look like a sexy motherfucker.
So, have you ever been in love?
Yeah, I've been in love. I've been in love a couple of times. First time I was in love was typical 16, 17, first time being in love. Yeah, he was a great person to be in love with. Just because he was a good bloke, it wasn't like, oh, God, that was horrible, because he turned out to be a bit of a cunt. Couldn't be further from the truth. So I really, I admired myself for my own good taste.
Are you married?
I was proposed to a couple of times, but I didn't want to marry them.
Yeah.
And the boys that I thought I would marry them didn't want to marry me. So it was a little bit, you know, it just didn't happen for me. And are you married yourself?
Yeah.
How long?
Only since 2016.
Oh, wow.
But we're together 25 years.
Oh, wow. So why did you wait so long to get married?
And I didn't wear a wedding dress.
You didn't?
No. So,
That
I don't
makes
invite
sense.
nobody.
No, good for you. I wouldn't invite anyone because I ain't got any mates anyway. But, you know, if I could find one person who wants to shag me on a regular basis, it'd be amazing. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
It's my first day in a wedding shop, and I have to say, I've really enjoyed myself. You know, I am a romantic, and I do love the fact that this is all part of a woman's choice.
How do you think other people see single people?
I think years ago, single people were viewed as a bit sad. And, it always used to be, like, especially to me, don't worry, one day you will meet somebody. Because really, it was like, you know, having a husband you needed a husband, you know, to provide for you and stuff. I just think it doesn't matter so much nowadays, particularly for women.
There are more single women than ever, and apparently we're happier than married women.
Hello.
I didn't know it's knock on that.
I'm meeting a lady whose relationship choices are scrutinised. She has a successful career in TV, she's incredibly hot, and has dated loads of handsome men.
I'm classic clickbait.
Yes.
People will click on it if they read, she's got another one. How old is he this time? You know, I always think if I stand next to a lamppost and it was built in the last 30 years, they're probably sales engaged to it. Do you know what I mean?
Despite all her success, at 39, Caroline Flack is portrayed in the press as sad and lonely.
I see the media as if you're in your 30s or your 40s, your 50s, and you're not settled down, you haven't got kids, and kind of not wearing a twin set and pearls, they think that you're unhappy in some way. I never had the desire I never had that fairy tale, I want to meet my prince and I want to settle down. Mm-hmm. So I suppose when it's come to relationships, I've still kind of always put work, I've woke up in the morning, go to work, come home, just like my boyfriend has.
Yes.
You know, and I've never got to that point yet, and I'm scared it's going to get too late where I've wanted to go, right, maybe slow down, think about having kids, and maybe think about settling down, but I've never had, that's never been wired into me.
Right, right.
It's really strange, and I feel guilty for it sometimes. I feel like maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe...
No, but I don't think you are. I think you're just being you and doing what your heart's desire is.
There has been a point where I did say the words, I'll stop working.
Right.
Don't leave me. Because he was going to leave. And I said it, and I thought, and my sister was like, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
You're sacrificing everything you do for him. And I was like, because I really don't want him to go. I don't want him to leave.
But he did.
He left, yeah.
Anyway.
And thank God I didn't give up my job.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wonder if he didn't leave and you were with him now and you weren't doing your job anymore, I wonder how happy you would be.
Yeah, I wonder.
Doesn't seem like you would be that happy, really.
Where do you think you got your experiences of what relationships look like or what you'd want them to look like?
I suppose just the grown-ups in my life, you know. I definitely knew I didn't want to be with anybody if they didn't love me. And I could see that a lot, people that were in loveless marriages. So I definitely knew I'm not that desperate to sort of be with someone, or I'm not that scared to be on my own.
But yeah, I am quite romantic. I love the idea of love as well. And I love falling in love. The falling in love bit is quite addictive, isn't it? That first romantic feeling. And then maybe I've just never been very good at the keeping it going.
Yes. Yeah, because then it becomes work, and that's when all the compromising thing comes into it.
Yeah.
So, do you get bored if you're with the same person?
I don't think I get bored, but it's just never got to the point where it's gone 3 years or longer. It's always sort of ended, I suppose, and then I become single again. I'm happy again. Then you meet someone else, and kind of happens over again.
And then you start again.
Yeah, then you start again.
See, I think that's great. I really do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I sort of think, why not?
Being single shouldn't be seen as a sign of a weakness. It's actually, when you're on your own, you're more powerful because you're not relying on someone else. So actually, it's more of a powerful thing to be single. And when you're single and happy, that is when you feel your best.
Yeah.
Do you think men and women have different attitudes towards sex? Do you think women don't need it as much, or...?
I don't know. I think that's sort of a load of rubbish, really. I don't think it's more for men. I think that's bollocks. And I think that was another way that men used to make sure they could have sex, because they used to say, well, if I don't, it'll be really bad for my testicles. And, you know, the rubbish you used to hear back in the last century. It's just fucking hilarious. See, I don't know what's happened to me as I've got older, but, yeah, the old swarthy man is doing something for me. I like a hairy bloke. I've always liked a hairy bloke.
Sex is a big part of relationships. In the past, the giving and receiving of pleasure hasn't always been equal, but women have got better at asking for what they want.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. You're Darren, yeah?
How are you doing?
I'm very well. Take a seat. Do you have to be well endowed to do this?
You can't be small.
just curious, you know.
Darren is uniquely qualified to tell us what women want. He sells sex for £100 an hour.
You know, men are called gigolo or escort.
Yeah.
They're very rarely called male prostitute. And you know, Darren, women get judged, especially, you know, women that do work like yours.
Yeah.
Do you ever get judged?
I've not come across it in that way. No. The way women communicate is always sexually respectful.
Tell me, what's the sort of typical thing that you're asked for?
Primarily massage and sex, and the dates are really nice. Going to the theatre, having a picnic, hotel dates, so meeting the lady for dinner, and then having dinner, and then drinks, and then going to bed.
And does it always involve sex?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
So that's really what people want from you, is sex. Because what I was wondering about, because obviously sex is involved, what do you do if you don't find somebody attractive?
Well, I'm a guy, so...
Right.
Like, guys can get turned on pretty easily. It still works.
It does?
Yeah, it
well,
still
that's
works.
good.
And it's still good as well. You can still have good sex, even... It doesn't matter about the body.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen ladies who've worn, like, corsets and things because they want to cover up in front of me when I meet them. I try and make them feel as comfortable as they can so they can just take it off because it's so much nicer, skin on skin, and it's sensual.
Oh, right.
So I'm trying to find ways to make them feel comfortable, and the more I can do that, then the better the sex is, and it kind of works like that.
So, Darren, what sort of women hire you? I imagine it'll probably be, like, quite a lot of career women, you know, that aren't in relationships.
Yeah, it can definitely be. There's that element to it. Funding, investments up in the city here. I've had one client who's a hairdresser in her 40s or 50s. And she actually asked, do I actually do just sex, or does she have to have me as an escort? Well, I messaged, no, it's fine for sex, and she replied, so I don't even have to message you in the morning or anything like that.
Do you think men and women's brains react differently to love?
I mean, I've got a lot of male mates and, you know, and they come to me with their heartbreak and just as much as my female mates. And it's made me realise that there's not that much difference between us, you know, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. I mean, love is so magnificent, but it's also like the worst thing. It's like wasps. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the worst thing that I hate. Wasps.
Even though I think men and women both love the same, I think the way we behave in relationships is different.
This afternoon, we are at Oxford University because we're going to meet a bit of a brainy bird. She's called Dr. Anna Machin, and she's an anthropologist. So I'm going to be talking to her about love, what it does to us, what it does to our brains, and what it does to our hormones, particularly as women. I didn't go to university, no. I went to the University of Life, which is what twats say when they haven't got an education.
Dr. Anna Machin is an expert on the highly addictive love chemicals knocking around in our brains, and I want to understand how they drive our relationships.
So, shall we start with love?
Right.
What is it? Why are we so obsessed with it?
The most basic answer to what love is survival. So love evolved because love is the biological bribery that evolution has decided to develop to make us have relationships.
Right.
Relationships are actually pretty tough. So we need a bit of bribery to make us do it. And that is essentially what love is. It's the neurochemical cocktail in your brain that is full of reward chemicals and chemicals that make you feel amazing.
So being in love is like being drugged. The brain releases chemicals that make us feel great.
This love at first sight thing, you think that's more lust at first sight?
Yeah, I don't believe in love at first sight. Love at first sight doesn't exist.
Right.
Lust at first sight exists. That's very much based on just the evolved triggers we have to find somebody attractive. And then the lust is there to drive you to mate, because that's basically what evolution wants you to do.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you're quite cold.
I am, scientist.
Right, fascinating, fascinating.
Love, I would say, is very different. It's an experience beyond emotion, so it's in the conscious brain as well. And it's when you start to empathise with somebody, when you start to trust, and when you form what a psychologist would call an attachment relationship. They're rare in your life.
Oh, OK.
They're very, very intense. They are characterised by people wanting to maintain proximity all the time, but also separation distress. So when you're apart, you feel pain.
So love hurts.
Yeah. I nearly swore then. Yes, it does. It really does. Because partly, and we can give you a neurochemical reason for that, beta endorphin underpins love. And beta endorphin is your body's painkiller. And it's an opiate. It's like morphine.
Right.
And it's actually what you become addicted to when you're in love with somebody. Basically, you're always taking a little bit of morphine every day.
Yes.
Suddenly, that goes, you will feel physical pain.
Yes.
And that is why love hurts.
Right,
when you
that
split
makes
up with
a
somebody.
lot of sense looking back. Because I'd sort of met someone that, you know, it just sort of felt I'm meant to be with this person. And then a mate of mine said to me, I think you've got to cut him out of your life. I think, you know, he doesn't deserve your friendship. Even though I made that decision, I can't see this person. The pain, my heart physically hurt.
Yes.
And I really understood for the first time, I thought, God, I do believe you could die of a broken heart.
Yeah, and you can.
And you can. And I really felt that I was, you know. I was really fucked up for a while. It took me years to get over him. That's why I didn't like being in love, because I didn't want to be in love with him. I'd rather have been in love with anybody else but this guy. But that's what happened. You can't control it. So, are relationships necessary?
Our relationships are integral to who we are as humans. However, humans are amazing because we have so many different sorts of relationships. So most other mammals, they have reproductive relationships and they have parenting relationships. That's it. We have friendships,
Yeah.
which is very different. And I would say, of all the relationships in a way, and I'll probably get slammed for this, but the most disposable is the love relationship, is the romantic love relationship.
Right.
Because if you don't, I mean, even if you do want kids, but, you know, you don't actually need that relationship in your life.
Yeah.
But if you were to try and live without the support and love of your friends, you would threaten your health.
Oh, OK. So the Spice Girls were right.
They are right. Your friendships are essential to your life. Yes.
I get the impression from mates that are in relationships and from my own relationships in the past that it always seems to me that the women compromise more than the men.
I think our society tells women that they're the ones to compromise. So if you think about anything to do with being a woman in our society,
Yeah.
you are put in this role of you are the one that has to adapt. And men are very used to being able to have like just the one-track mind.
Right.
So just go to work and think about work.
I was brought up in a mainly male household
Okay.
where we all
Yeah.
did chores.
Yeah.
And maybe this is where it comes from, me not being able to compromise, or that it's the woman that compromises. It used to drive me nuts if the guy couldn't cook or know how to use a hoover, or... I mean, I'd be absolutely sort of gobsmacked and go, well, what have you been fucking doing? And they would go, no, my mum would do everything. Well, I just found that whole conversation completely fascinating. God, if only I knew all this so long ago. It's like, oh my God, wasted most of my life. Hell.
I'd like to invite you to this pretty little scene.
Romantic relationships aren't just tricky between men and women. Same-sex marriages have the highest divorce rates.
Yeah, I'd like to bequest you a seat with greedy boys.
Skin is the front woman in rock band Skunk and Anansie. Openly bisexual, she's the coolest kid in Christendom.
Well, I was wrong.
She's been married, divorced, dated boys and girls, so must know a thing or two about who compromises most in relationships.
Do you think having a relationship with a woman is easier for you because you're a successful woman?
Yeah.
Not all men, but some men can find it quite difficult if they're in a relationship and the woman is more successful than them.
You know, when I've been in relationships with men, I can almost be like too strong and a bit too assertive. I think that it works better if you give up a little bit, you know, like financial intimacy, for instance. That's a very difficult thing for a man to do, especially if he suspects that he earns less than you.
Right.
You know, it's not the same thing with women. With women, you just don't even think about that. But with men, it's kind of, you know, you kind of have to let them be men.
I mean, the thing with men, do you think it's because of ego?
I mean, I think that's a lot to do with it. I think society really dictates to them how they're supposed to be. You know, they're supposed to look after their women and their children. They're supposed to have the house. They're supposed to organise everything. But with women, the ego is there. It's just a little bit hidden and in different places.
Right.
Women are much more manipulative.
I think you're right, actually. I think we've had to be.
Yeah.
Because,
We didn't have power.
yeah, also being told not to be loud about our achievements. You've got to be modest. That's a
Yeah.
word that I fucking hate more than
Yeah.
anything is modest. You know, be
Don't show off.
modest. Yeah.
So you think you shouldn't have any more relationships?
Well, I think with me, it's just that I'm really happy on my own. I think I've just got so used to being by myself that I think it would be pretty difficult for...
You wouldn't want to change anything?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to change anything in my life. It's not to say that I wouldn't compromise, but then I think, well, maybe I wouldn't compromise, you know?
But what about in the house, though? Would you, like, you know, have your... They would have to move in with you, and then you'd have to move some stuff, your shit out the way.
Yeah. See, it's all that
Oh,
stuff.
your face is just like, that's not happening.
No, it really isn't.
Romantic relationships, it's weird. I just really don't think they have to be what people perceive them as. I mean, being in a monogamous relationship or a long relationship, if people can do that, that's great. That's kind of the perfect world that we all kind of, in some ways, are told that we're supposed to adhere to. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think necessarily the relationship has to end.
Right.
I mean, you know, I know people who've been in long relationships who don't have sex and haven't had sex for 20 years.
Yeah.
But they really love each other and they really want to be together, and they'll go and get sex in other places.
Yeah.
But, you know, because society tells us that that's so wrong and it's so bad and blah, 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 you know, we have this innate kind of inbuilt thing that we feel so bad because that person's having sex with someone else, even though we don't want to sleep with them.
Yes.
You know, but if we're actually honest with ourselves, we'd be like, oh, you know, I'm quite relieved.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you have to break up. It doesn't mean it all has to end. If they don't want to be with you anymore, then they don't want to be with you. Well, it's over. But if you actually still, maybe you can kind of talk to someone and work it out so it's different, you know?
Yeah.
Can men compliment women these days?
I think it's getting a bit tough for men now because of the Me Too thing, everything that's going on, rightly so, that needed to happen and should have happened fucking centuries ago, quite frankly. I think giving a compliment is fine. Just don't put your hand on her fanny while you're doing it, you know, unless she wants you to. My current relationship status has been the same as it has been for a pretty long time, actually, which is single. Not wanting to mingle.
I don't miss having a bloke to call my own, but I haven't given up on romantic relationships completely. I'm in Portsmouth meeting a group of women who have.
So now we are on our way to visit a gang of nuns. I don't know what you'd call a clump of nuns. They're Church of England. They're not Catholics.
Are you worried about offending nuns?
I've never been worried about offending nuns. In fact, when I was a little girl, it was one of my hobbies because I was taught by nuns. And this one particular nun we're meeting, Sister Elizabeth, she sort of did have a normal life before becoming a nun. And so I'm very interested why Sister Elizabeth chose to become a nun. Because I sort of think, you know that you're sacrificing all that stuff like sex and family. There's a little clue in the right place.
Sister Elizabeth is in a relationship, but this one required her to take a vow of poverty, obedience and chastity, which means no sex.
Hello.
Come on in.
Nice
Sister Joanna Elizabeth.
Oh, lovely to meet you.
This is Sister Elizabeth Peter.
Hello, Sister Elizabeth. Lovely to meet you. I'm good. I think a little tour would be lovely,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so start here.
Yes.
We'll go for a pint a bit later on.
Yeah, lovely.
This room where we come back through here is where we come and eat lots and lots.
Spotless.
Oh, yes.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's good. Well, meals are important. And who does the cooking then? Who cooks the meals?
Well, we've got a lovely lady called Maxine, who's the most fantastic cook ever.
Yeah.
And so she does most of the meals. And then we have Derek, who comes in the evening to cook our suppers.
Do you not do anything?
We do some things.
Yeah.
We do something.
Like what?
You'll see in a minute.
Which is very important. Yeah. So you pray for Derek and Maxine so that they cook you nice meals. Yes. Here she comes.
Taking this route. Trolley dolly.
I brought the Campus biscuits I could find for some reason. So I've got you some Viennese swirls and some raspberry puffs.
Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
That's lovely.
Thanks for having us. So with you, Sister Elizabeth, this wasn't like something you chose to do. This was, you felt you were called to do it.
That's a really, really good point, actually. Yeah, it was a calling because, as our Reverend Mother says, no one in their right mind would live like this.
Yes.
Because it's not attractive. It wasn't attractive to me when I first came.
Right. Like, did you have boyfriends and you weren't married or anything like that?
No, I had a relationship with a lovely, lovely man. We were together for about 10 years.
And so were you still with him when God came along and was like, I want to be your boyfriend?
No, we split up. And maybe that relationship did play a part in the main relationship, as it were now.
Do you wish that you could have both? Could you not have a relationship with a tangible man and with God, you know?
The relationship I had was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It really was, and I don't regret anything.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine myself being married.
You know, the thing about relationships as well is the physical side. I'm not talking about hanky-panky. I'm talking about, you know, being touched and held.
There were times, of course, there are times, lots of times of affection and being held, but not really, I don't miss it at all.
I mean, it's interesting because I don't think I do miss it. It's only because we're talking about it that I'm sort of thinking, oh, yes, maybe the hand-holding and a bit of cuddling, but... I mean, I do live quite a sort of solitary life. I probably live more solitary than you do.
Are you lonely or have you ever been lonely?
It's really interesting. The only time I tend to feel lonely is if I'm writing. It's such a solitary thing to do, writing, and I'm used to being socially at work, you know, particularly with directing. And at the end of a writing day, even though I'm knackered, that's when I really want to either see somebody or at least have what we call a night out in, which is a lovely big phone chat with a pal while we're both having a drink and a fag in our own homes. But that's really the only time. And sister, can I ask you, because nowadays there's a lot of pressure on people to sort of find love, basically.
We're all looking to be loved and to love, aren't we, really? I think that's a basic human search, isn't it, really? But I think that's an unhealthy kind of pressure because you can end up getting involved in the wrong kind of relationship, perhaps. Pressure, peer pressure or desperation, you don't want to be left behind. You don't feel called to be part of a religious community.
Listen,
a vow of obedience.
I think the nuns that taught me when I was a kid, if any of them were watching this, I mean, they'd be in absolute hysterics that I was walking in here in the first place, you know? You know, they'd be like, we never thought we'd see this. Pray for me, I need it. Bye, girls. I'd like Sister Elizabeth to be my best mate. I just love her humour.
What about her take on love?
Yeah, her take on love was very interesting, saying that all anybody's doing is searching for love. And I think that's the truth. You know, and with Sister Elizabeth, that the love of her life is God and prayer. I sort of think, great, good for her.
Do you think she's missing out on anything?
I don't think she's missing out on anything. She's got all the biscuits she could desire, so what on earth is she missing out on? Nothing.
Do you think men and women have different shelf lives or, you know, their age means different things?
Yeah, when men get older, well, they're called silver foxes if they go nice and grey. But women are just called old bags. But then I do think, you know, there are older women now that are coming through that are so strong and beautiful.
Women over 50 are no longer sitting quietly in the corner. There's a new generation of silver vixens who refuse to conform to society's expectations.
What is your favourite profanity?
Well, I like all swear words, actually. But I suppose my well, I haven't got a favourite. I wouldn't want to sort of... It's like your children, isn't it? You can't say which one's your favourite. But I do like fuck shit. I like fuck, shit, cunt, bollocks. So today, we're in beautiful Whitstable. The reason we're down in Whitstable is because the big bosses of the documentary thought it might be quite nice for me to interview the WI. But I found this group on Twitter called the Profanity Embroidery Group. So they're like the punk version of the WI, I suppose. No, I've got no worries at all about fitting in, excuse me. I've got no worries at all about fitting in with these women. You know, sweary women are right up my fucking street. Hello. I'm Kath. Good to see you all.
Do you mind drawing a cock?
Of course I don't.
The Profanity Embroidery Group, otherwise known as PEG, is a group of women who create cushions and quilts covered in naughty words.
Well, bollocks is a great word. I like the looping of bollocks.
They meet every 2 weeks and their pieces are displayed and sold all over the country.
It gets a lot of attention when you use the word cunt. And what do you think of this thing when other women attack us for using that word?
I find it quite annoying because it's the only word that actually describes our female genitalia as a whole.
Right.
And we've been told...
When I met Dr. Anna, she said friendships are the most important relationships in women's lives, so is she right?
And she said something really interesting because she said, and I wonder what you ladies think about this, she said the most important relationship in your life should be with your friends, not a partner.
I do agree with that, and I've been married for 46 years.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of friends, but I have a couple of really tight friends.
Well, when I was poorly, I had some great friends, actually, that took care of me.
How sick were you?
I was incredibly sick. I nearly died about 4 times. I had to have a major operation, so I had 60 stitches on my tummy. Then I had to have a colostomy bag for about 9 months. A couple of friendships have been far more important to me than any relationship I've been in. No disrespect to the blokes that I was in relationships with, but I think I've always put my friendships first.
I had a partner for 13 years, and after he passed, I did feel completely invisible, and then I joined PEG in the September, shortly after.
Yes.
And kind of just sort of sat in the background for, well, it must have been about 3 years, isn't it, really? 2 or 3 years, just sort of sitting in the background, sort of hiding behind somebody else, because I didn't know how to be me as a person on my own.
Jackie's partner died when she was 40. They'd been together since she was 27.
When he passed, it was a complete dead space, blank space, and I had neglected friends. I didn't have my best friend or my girlfriend or...
I just sort of think it's so beautiful that gang of women were there for you.
They really were. What I find interesting is the first piece I ever did after Carl's death was I stitched the word cunt. Yeah. And then when the quilt was put together, my cunt was slap bang in the middle of all the other women's.
Yes.
And that felt like a visual representation of what had happened.
Right.
To be in the centre of the quilt with everybody else around, just, we've got this, you know, we've got this.
Yeah. Do you hope that you will find love again?
Absolutely, yeah. It's nice to hug your friends, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're hugging someone because you have that deep passion and desire for them, you know.
I mean, I think it's great that she's up for finding love again because to be held, human beings, we're very gregarious, you know, and social, and I think it's important.
Have you ever wanted to be married?
I mean, I'm 54, so I am sort of past it, but I'm sort of not. And, you know, there's part of me that thinks now, I think, well, if I met somebody and they wanted to get married, I think I'd go for it.
Me and you and Sharon.
So today we've come to Essex and we're going to meet a couple called Barbara and John.
Straight at me there. Horrible.
Who have been married for 60 plus years, which I personally I'm quite fascinated about. For someone who's never lasted longer than a cup of tea and a bag of chips in any relationship. Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Barbara, yeah. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Mwah.
Only 5% of married couples get to celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary. Barbara and John are members of an exclusive club. I want to know if all the compromises have been worth it.
You want a cup of tea, Catherine?
I would love a cup of tea.
Do you like it strong or milky?
That looks perfect to me. Oh, it's a lovely room. Good cup of tea as well. So when did you first meet, then, the two of you?
1954.
Uh-huh. And how old were you?
18. No, 17.
And you, John?
I was 23.
Right.
Yeah.
We got married and that was it, you know.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to sleep that night.
And my best man, he said to me, "We've got a bed at home, John." He said, "If you want to bring your wife," and he gave me 2 condoms. Well, he did, yeah.
My director wants me to ask you, and is things still good in that department? Are
He's
you
too old now.
Yeah.
Little Johnny don't want to know.
Right. Little John.
The sexual side of a relationship makes me feel a little bit icky now, but I suppose it's the companionship. Because when you're older and you're single, you know, you sort of come last, because most of the time, the majority of people I know are in relationships. It's just that thing of, when nobody's around, it's like there is a person that always is.
Yeah, this is like my mum and dad's wedding
the
album.
the old wedding albums.
Oh, wowza. Wow. And how much was your dress?
That was somebody else's.
Was it?
I bought it.
That's lovely. You could see that you're in love.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're just made for each other, really. I knew he was the man I should be marrying.
I mean, what's your opinion on, like, women like me that are single and live a life?
You've got a lot of guts to be on your own.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. This is when we went on our golden wedding anniversary.
Golden is 50th.
Look at the cake they give you.
It's a bit of a shit cake, isn't it, Barbara? Look at that. Look at the state of that.
That's what they give you, yeah.
She's my partner, and that's it. I don't want another partner. You know, I made a vow, and I'll stick to it.
We both did.
Love and honour, and yeah.
And would you say you're still in love with each other?
Yeah, I think so.
Without a doubt.
Oh,
yeah.
It seems to me, like watching mates that are married and stuff, that it seems to be the woman that compromises the most. Like the cooking and the cleaning and stuff like that. Is that mainly your job, Barbara, or have you always shared it?
Since we've retired.
Since we retired, we share it. I'm my own governor and he's his own governor.
Yeah. So can I ask you, how many children do you
I
have?
had 2
and
daughters.
Grandchildren?
And I lost my eldest daughter when she was 50. I have 3 grandsons, and we lost my eldest grandson at 30. And we had a great-granddaughter and we lost her, so...
Oh, dear.
I had to go counselling.
In the end,
yeah.
The counsellor was brilliant, and I broke down. I blubbed like a little baby.
Yes.
But it done the trick. I can talk about it now.
You needed to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't talk about it before.
So you've had your fair share of grief, really?
Yeah.
That is when being married and close really, really helps.
Uh-huh.
You forget all the arguments.
Yes.
And we've only got each other.
That's it.
That's it.
I just think some people really like the idea of being with somebody. I think it's nurture that we're taught that we're meant to be a partnership. It's Adam and Eve, isn't it? It sort of comes back from right there at the beginning, you know, or the made-up beginning. But I just think a lot of people haven't given being on their own enough of a chance. I think people get quite frightened about loneliness, about being trapped with their own thoughts and nothing else. But come and live in my head, it's great. And, you know, if you just spent some time on your own, you might realise, oh my goodness, I'm a really good person. I mean, they use this word soulmates, you know, but I think it's simpler than that. I really do think it's about friendship.
How would someone woo you?
If someone was to say to me, oh, on Sunday, would you like to go down to the coast for the day and walk until your knees tremble and you're covered in sweat, and then we'll go and have some nice food somewhere, that to me would be great. And if I didn't have to fuck them at the end of the day, even better.